Hey folks, it's Tanker, and this is the Moto X4 Android One edition. This is a phone you can buy from Google on the Play Store that has a pure Android experience and supports Google Fi, their NVMe. And so I wanted to give you a quick look at it. It's a pretty nice phone. It's a little pricey at $399. But it's a pretty solid mid-ranger. It's very similar in many specs as the Moto Z2 Play, but smaller, and has a dual camera system. So that's kind of the takeaway. Of course, no mod support here, right? Just be clear. I'm just comparing them in a vacuum here, not really for the ecosystem. So there's a 5.2-inch display. It's a IPS, I think. And it's a pretty nice display, all said. It's got nice darks and everything else. Pretty good contrast. So 1080p, nothing to scream about. I mean, it is a solidly well-made, high-quality display. You know, take a look here, and you can see that the colors are vivid. There's a bit of glare here, but I think you can still kind of judge and tell that it's a pretty decent display overall. And then, you know, it's got a Snapdragon 630 on board, which is an octa-core design. It's a mid-range. It's a little improvement over the super popular Snapdragon 625. And with a 3000 milliamp hour battery inside, it's going to have some really good battery life. And I certainly have had really good performance out of this phone in terms of battery life. So that's, kind of continues the trend we've seen with the Snapdragon 625, this Snapdragon 630. 3 gigs of RAM, 32 gigs of built-in storage with microSD expansion. So you can't go wrong there. 3 gigs, plenty enough. So so there's, it's not a bezel-less design. As I showed you earlier, there's some bezels, top and bottom, very typical Moto design. You can see there's a microphone right here next to the fingerprint reader. It's got a nice fast fingerprint reader. You can lock the phone with the fingerprint reader and unlock it again, which is kind of cool. Up here is a 16 megapixel f/2 camera with pretty small 1 micron pixels, but it does have a cool trick. It has a 4 megapixel mode, which kind of combines the pixels to reduce noise and low light, so it improves low light performance. It has a front-facing flash, and of course the earpiece up here. So that's the front. Let me show you the display again a little more. And in the back is where it gets interesting. You got this dual camera system, and it's a really beautifully made phone. It's all glass front and back with aluminum, machine aluminum edge. So really feels premium, really well made. And here's the Android One logo, and you can see here is the Moto logo. And there is this dual camera system with a dual color, dual LED flash. So yeah, let me tell you about this camera system a little bit. It's pretty cool. It's the first phone other than LG to provide a regular lens and a wide-angle lens. So the main camera is a 12 megapixel regular lens. It doesn't have OIS. It's a f/2.0, and it has large pixels. They're 1.4 micron pixels. The secondary camera, the wide angle, is a 8 megapixel with f/2.0, and it has smaller pixels, 1.1 or so micron. So how does it perform? It's okay. I mean, in low light it does pretty well because of the large main array, large pixels in the main array, and the pretty decent f-stop. But I mean, it's I think in this day and age, it's hard to get a camera to be top notch and a mid range unless you pull all the punches and put OIS. So I would say it's a better than average, decent camera system. The wide angle, doesn't do too much. But let me quickly show you the camera performance. I've taken a bunch of photos. There is a way to toggle between the two cameras. As you can see, this is the wide angle, and here is the narrow angle. But other than that, you also have a portrait mode right here. You can see, so it does bokeh effects and blur effects, etc., etc. panorama, of course, and so on. So let me show you some of the pictures I've taken with this phone. This is this is my flight out to Hong Kong. I'm in Hong Kong right now, so I took a quick photo. Actually, no, this was in Portland, Oregon, flying to San Francisco. So on my way to Hong Kong, but the day before that. And you can see it did pretty well in terms of the dynamic range with the auto HDR here, even on the wide angle. This is a beautiful shot. I posted it to Instagram a few days ago. And as you can see, lots of detail, lots of cool bokeh here. It's pretty nice. And then, you know, here's some more. Here's a wide angle lens photo. Some low light shots. Not doing too bad in low light. As you can see, despite the lack of OIS, those large pixels and f/2.0 certainly pay off. So yeah, I am trying to unzoom. Here we go. Some artsy pictures. This came out pretty well in terms of dynamic range. Wide angle, more wide angle, more wide angle. And yeah, it's got a little bit of that weird color temperature thing going on in bright sunlight, but the video camera here overemphasizes the blue. This blue is actually a lot darker in the if you look at the phone in person. So it's a nice low light shot with good dynamic range. So all in all, pretty impressive camera for, you know, a mid-range phone. But again, my standards are pretty high these days, so just keep that in mind. Let me give you a tour of the phone in terms of design. There's really nothing on the left-hand side. This is, as I said, beautifully polished, not polished, but anodized aluminum. You've got USB Type-C here at the bottom with all the regulatory stuff. And a headphone jack. Yes, we have not lost the headphone jack. And the audio coming out of this phone is pretty top-notch. In fact, most of Motorola's offerings have had really decent audio this year. So then the right-hand side here has the power lock key and the volume rocker. And as you can see, the power lock key has a really nice texture to it. And it really feels great because you can tell immediately that's the power lock versus the volume rocker. These are metal buttons. And then on top you see an antenna band here, secondary mic, and of course the SIM tray, nano SIM, and micro SD. I did not show you, there is a microphone in the front. Yeah, I did show you that right by the fingerprint reader. That's the primary mic. And the earpiece is actually the speakerphone, so that's the mono speaker for music as well. There's also a third mic on the back down here, probably for video recording. But yeah, it's a pretty cool design. So it's running Android Nougat 7, pretty much unskinned. It's got a few Moto enhancements, but you can see this is very similar launcher to what we saw on some other Moto phones, and the Pixel. Here's, you know, the Google stuff, and then I don't know. It's pretty clean. So if you want a kind of a pure Android experience, you know, this is a great way to do it. Really no complaints here at all in terms of software. As you can see, it's a fast and nice and responsive phone. You know, if I open a bunch of apps here, everything is nice and quick. And go to the Play Store and maybe open some social media, and let's see, Drive, and you know, YouTube, and Maps, and Photos, and you know, that there's a lot there, right? So here we go. Let everything load, and you know, there's YouTube, and as you can see, you know, everything is pretty fast, pretty smooth. There's really nothing to complain about. This thing just flies. So yeah, pretty damn great phone. The question is, should you buy this? I mean, $399 is still a lot of money for a mid-range phone, right? 3 gigs of RAM, Snapdragon 630, 1080p display, no OIS on the camera. You're getting a pretty solid phone, good battery life, 3,000 milliamp hour, as I said before. But I think if this phone was $350 or even $299 or $329, then it would be really interesting, because then it would be cheaper than a Moto Z2 Play, which doesn't have a dual camera but does have the mods and has very similar specs. And at that point, you get all this Android goodness, and you know you're going to get updated on time. And of course, you know, I'm going to turn off Wi-Fi. So the Fi network, right? So I'm in Hong Kong right now, and I'm roaming for free, and data is free because of Fi. Now, I'm not roaming on LTE. I'm roaming on HSPA+, but it's not bad. You know, everything does load. Like if I bring up a website, you will see that it's perfectly manageable. Here's Engadget, you know, and as you can see, it's loading. It's taking its time, but it's not bad considering I'm not paying for this data right now. I mean, it's part of my bucket of data on the Fi network. So, you know, it's not bad. It's slowly loading the articles, and as you can see, it's keeping up pretty nicely despite being HSPA+. Of course, not quite as fast as the hotel Wi-Fi, I'll grant you that. But, you know, that's kind of the price you pay for, you know, roaming. So it's not a bad deal all in all. Anyway, I really enjoyed using this phone. It feels really super premium in hand. That's the one thing I love. I love USB-C, which I think, you know, you don't see on a lot of mid-rangers. I love that it still has a headphone jack, how it feels in hand, how well it's built. The only thing is, you know, the price is a little on the high side for what you get. But everything else, I think, hits the nail on the head. Overall, very well-rounded phone. It's really small, really thin, really beautifully designed. So that's my take on the Moto X4 Android One edition. And please subscribe, like this video, and don't forget, this review is really just to give you a taste of what we'll be discussing on the podcast. My podcast is the Mobile Tech Podcast, mobiletechpodcast.com. Go there. Tell your friends to subscribe. Also tell your friends to subscribe to this YouTube channel. But this is just really a vehicle to show you the products I discuss on the podcast. So subscribe, tell your friends. We're on iTunes, Pocket Cast, all that good stuff. All right, folks, I'm going to run. Cheers. Stay tuned for more videos real soon. Bye.